Hey, we're here with Eric Carter from ericcarter.com, and we're going to talk about overcoming your toxic mindset so you can get out of your own way and stop self-sabotaging and stop putting up those roadblocks for yourself and really get to where you need to go and become the person that you need to be. So, Eric, I'm glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you as well, Robert.
And so, as far as this topic, I know that you're an expert on things like leadership and motivation, but you said that lately you have been focused and intrigued by this toxic mindset concept. So, can you tell us what has been your thoughts these last 6 or 12 months about the toxic mindset and just how it applies to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely for sure for the last 18 months, goes without saying, we've been in a whirlwind, literally, of things that has never occurred in my lifetime. And, one of the things that I think has happened is that people just stopped learning how to, self-motivate themselves. A lot of people require or insist on somebody else motivating them. But if you don't motivate yourself, it's kind of, futile for somebody else to try to motivate you. You shouldn't rely on somebody else's motivation to motivate you. And where the toxic mindset comes in is we are our own worst enemies by far. Our own worst enemies. So if we are our own worst enemies, it's a combination of ourselves beating up on ourselves, as well as we feel the world is beating up on us, or they don't understand us. And so when you are that cliche of the mind, your mindset, your mindset is everything, because everything starts in your brain. Whatever your outcomes want to be, or what you don't want to be, is the cumulative of what you think about the most. So if you feel or think that you're not a good person, or a good business owner, or you should have never started this business, or you should have never left your corporate job, it tends to just wear on you, and you just tend to not have any one that supports you, which the number one person is yourself, and then everybody else after that.
So that's a lot to think about just right off the jumping off point there, that there's this negative self-talk, right? That we all tell ourselves and kind of just like badmouth and smack talk ourselves. And then also having difficulty adapting to change, like pandemic or whatever it is. And then also thinking that we need someone else to motivate us, where
Yes.
We need to be the motivators of ourselves. And people like you and me, self-employed business owners, that's been kind of the name of the game from day one. But there's a lot of 9-to-5 or career type of people who have had to jump into this for the first time, right? Because up until now, maybe they were working in an office, maybe they did have someone there personally motivating them, but if they're at home behind a camera, there's no one really looking over their shoulder every minute of every day. They need to maybe tap into these sorts of new tools. And so do you have a go-to method, technique, tactic, trick in order to get yourself motivated and free of self-talk? Do you have something that maybe it's an easy win or an easy starting point to getting ourselves motivated and productive?
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. So with that, we are the future now of ourselves, and what decisions that we make today will impact or impede us, today, tomorrow, a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. And so what I've developed is a program where you take good old school index cards. I know everybody has these vision boards, which is fine. But I think the old school index cards, one, it helps you when you take something that you're thinking about, whether it's a goal or something that you want to do. The old school, yeah, we can type it on the keyboard, we can voice it into our phone, but you need to write it down. There's something about the cognizance of actually writing something that change is different than if you just voice speak it or if you type it on the computer. I mean, in school, particularly at my age, everything was written. We didn't have computers until I got in high school. So you had to write everything down. And so if you're taking that time to write down your goals, you take time to write down what you envision your best self as being, because there's an old Zig Ziglar saying that you can't consistently do the things that you do. I know I'm probably butchering this, but with that, as a matter of fact, I have it written down. I am so sorry. You cannot consistently perform in a manner that's inconsistent with the way that you see yourself. And that was so profound in essence of you envision yourself as whatever this may be, a leader, a speaker, a coach, a business owner, a famous a tennis player, whatever the case it may be. But if you're not putting the things in place to actually make that happen, it won't happen. So you're saying one thing that you want to be, but your actions are two totally different things. So I found old school index cards of writing down your goals, writing down what you want to achieve, writing down what you're not happy with, and then having a solution to that problem tends to work out over a period of time.
Interesting. So the goals, the problem, and the solution. And when you're explaining this idea of like your best self, what comes to mind is whenever, I mean, we're always heading towards destinations in life, right? Whether it's you're driving across the country or you're climbing a mountain, and it seems like it's like you have to continuously apply the gasoline or the pressure to like keep yourself moving forward, right? You're running along and you see this stop sign way in the distance, and you're like, well, I have to keep on telling myself to go, and at any point, if I gave up or changed my mind, like I'd 100% be guaranteed to not get there. And so that's what's, and so when we're talking about, our goals in our business or like work or something like that, it's like some of these are like weeks long or months long or year long goals. And when you're explaining this concept of like your best self and your actions need to match up with your best self, that's what comes to mind, is that you might have that same goal that's way off in the distance, and we're just keep on day by day getting ourselves a little bit closer, but like keeping that focus on sticking to it, right? And on doing some of these, I don't know if the term is silly, but just like these like tried and true methods of, like you said, like put it on an index card, write it down, do it by hand, do it the way that it worked back in school, because that seems to be what, I don't know, like slows down your mind or what gets you there. So I like this a lot. This is making a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of like the quick analogy that you made about, like, I run a lot, and I know the destination that I'm going in my head. But when I start out running, I do small markers. I don't look at, okay, if I'm running from here to the McDonald's, and the McDonald's I know is 5 miles away, I make little markers that keep me motivated. Because if I'm thinking going from where I'm standing to McDonald's, that's 5 miles, that's a long way. But if I think, okay, I'm gonna run to the closest Walgreens, I know that's a half a mile away, and it keeps me motivated. It's kind of like celebrating small wins, is what I call it. So instead of thinking about the end goal, I make little markers in between that when I reach that point, it's like a little win for me. And then the next marker is a win for me. So when you relate that to business and life, don't think you have to do everything all at once. Do little small wins and markers to get you from point A to point B, as cliche as that is. Yes.
But it's a cliche, but it's true. So I like that a lot. Just the whole idea of the milestones, the markers. And then what I'm hearing from you also is that there's an order of importance involved, right? Like you're aware of the McDonald's all the way 5 miles away at the end of the finish line. So that's still in your head, but you're not really dwelling on that. What's more of a focus is the Walgreens, the thing that's half a mile away. And so it's like there's a few things to juggle, and we're aware of that end goal, but then the current hard work, the focus is on getting to that next step. And so as this relates and applies to you and your business, have you like had something like this happen in your own like personal like business or like your kind of work activities where you said, well, I have this goal, but it's so huge, it's so far away, I have to like keep it in mind, but also focus on these easy wins. Does anything come to mind as far as something recently where there was the big hairy goal, but also the easy win that you were more short term headed towards?
Yeah, absolutely. So, being, I'm sure you can test it as being a entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs are visionaries. And so they have these big, hairy things that they want to create and build and problem solve for other people. And it's great. And I call that the 30,000 square foot view, but breaking it down to smaller increments for us. So for me, I had this vision of bringing, uh, like service-based businesses, your plumbers, your electricians, your power washing people, all these different businesses under one umbrella where a consumer can go and just find other consumers who naturally and not by paid can recommend these different businesses. And so I worked on putting together this very large directory, and it kind of scared me a little bit because I envisioned this huge monstrosity of a thing. But what I realized and what I broke down, Robert, was just doing the simple things, buying the domain name, getting hosting. So every one of those little steps, as I broke it down and I wrote it down, I achieved something every time. And so what it became is not this big elephant, that saying, how do you eat an elephant or a frog one bite at a time? That's what I did. And I started celebrating those little milestones. And so it helped me go from seeing this big picture of how I can bring consumers and businesses together to just doing the small little steps to just even build that. And that helped me a lot because I wasn't then overwhelmed by this huge, big monstrosity. I just broke it down into little bitty, actionable steps to build that.
And I think that we can all relate to that, the being over having a goal and a vision so huge that you get overwhelmed and you're not even sure what the first step is. And
Right.
so you're saying like take any step or take a few steps where you
Yes.
get those small wins. And then I imagine that when you take those first few steps, you get excited about it because like you see it start to come together and then it motivates you to continue on and to take more steps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head with that one. Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
cool. And so as far as this project that you have with this directory, have you gotten stuck at any point? Because there's like we've said, like there's the end goal, there's the starting point, but then that middle section, that's the real rough part, right? Projects are fun to start, fun to finish, but then sometimes you're in the thick of it and you're just like wanting to give up, not really seeing like real solid results yet, but then still knowing that, well, I can't give up now. I've come too far.
Mhm.
Can you relate to that, or can you tell us about how that has been for you as far as being stuck in the middle and needing to find ways to keep going?
Yes, absolutely. And I can sum that up very simply is understanding some things you are not meant to do by yourself. And I was doing everything by myself. So I was, wearing, all the hats from the visionary, to the builder, to the coder, to the designer. And I realized that I was definitely my own worst enemy in that. And so I realized that I had to stop doing everything by myself. I needed to take a step back and trust and ask for help from others. And we, as business owners and entrepreneurs and just individuals, sometimes we're afraid to ask from help from other people because we feel that they may cast judgment. They may, laugh at us, think it's funny. They may steal what we're doing. And, those are just, chances or things that you have to take. So if you're relying on yourself to do everything, you're pretty much your own worst enemy and your own the most worst employee you will ever have, in life because you're doing everything yourself and you should not do that. Yeah. You cannot scale and grow everything by yourself.
and it seems like when you're explaining here is that sometimes we get stuck and there's a warning sign, but it's something it's good that the warning sign happened, right? Like how you
Mhm.
said you do a lot of running. I'm sure sometimes like your ankle hurts or you pull a hamstring, maybe
Mhm.
that's a sign to stop for a minute or like take a day off running so that way you can heal.
Mhm.
And likewise, if you had this goal, if you had this deadline, if it's not happening, if you're hitting a wall, if you're not meeting the deadline, then it's not a reason to give up, but it's a sign to then go and figure out some other solution. In this case, it is to hire someone else. So that's what I'm getting from your answer here is that it's so many roadblocks are not reasons to turn around and go back. It's just that some other ingredient is required.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I call it the pivot. You have to be willing to pivot at any given second. Yeah, absolutely. And so if you understand that versus just think, I have to complete this, I have to complete this, I'm the only way that this is going to get done, you're really doing yourself a disservice, yeah, in that.
And you're mentioning here that how important it is to get outside of your own head. That the mindset's really important, but
Mhm.
it's not just about what you were thinking, what you're doing. Sometimes you need those extra people to help you. And I'm sure that you've come across other people with similar like difficulties, right? Other people with
Yes.
their own self-sabotage mindset issues. So does an interesting story come to mind there as far as someone else that you've helped get out of their own way?
Yeah, absolutely. There was this couple, Brad and Chrissy, and they had or well, no longer. Yeah, they had past tense. They had a furniture store, and it was doing very well. But they were stuck at a point that they couldn't see any additional growth in their furniture store, and they were just thinking about closing it down, selling it, and maybe going back to work in corporate America. Well, I got introduced to them, and sometimes it takes someone else to see something that's really literally in front of your face. And so I just sat down with the couple and just, talked with them, got the story and where they envisioned when they started this furniture store, where they were going. And so we were able to take a look at, who their current clients were, how often their current clients would come back in, which we come to find out it was kind of almost like a one-time sale. And so what we did is just kind of really looked at their database of people who are already buying from them and found a way to come back around and find other things that they could reach out to them and invite them back in to purchase additional furniture. So they went from just being stagnant to now seeing growth with just people who had already spent money with them already, versus trying to figure out how to get new clients every day. So it was a wonderful story. So they basically went from 1.2 million a year, and I was working with them off and on, coaching them, and within 5 years, they were 4.5 million for a furniture store, which is pretty significant for a furniture store. I mean, they had more than one location, but yeah, absolutely.
And what's cool about that is that it seemed like maybe they were stuck in their own thinking or they needed someone from the outside like you to provide more solutions. And it seems to be really easy in so many cases to just be stuck in saying, well, I don't even know what the questions I should be asking are, right? And it
Mhm.
seems and so many times the answer is something that's simple, but not simple in a way that should be discounted. It's simple that you've been missing it this whole time, right? Like this whole idea of go back to your customer list and figure out
Mhm.
how to turn those into repeat customers. It's so simple that
Mhm.
so many people just will skip over that because it's too simple, or just like simple things like that, like, well, where does your traffic come from, or where do your customers usually come from, or like what did you used to do that you stopped doing, and
Mhm.
there's so many people that are just looking to do something new and different just because
Mhm.
it's new and different, but it's like, but you're giving up just the solid tried and true thing that works. And from the outside looking in, it looks insane, it looks counterintuitive, but it's easy to get stuck in your own box and say, well, what I did 5 years ago, like that was old stuff, I'm doing something new. It's like, yeah, but what you're doing 5 years ago was working, maybe there's something to dusting off some old marketing technique or some old idea you had, and like bringing it to a fresh life. So that's pretty cool that you had a new way of thinking, and you even were kind of asking the questions that even they would not ask.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. They were just in it, and they couldn't see out that old saying. They couldn't see the forest despite the trees. It's kind of like what it was. They were just kind of going through the motions, and I brought excitement. I brought things that, again, like they just kind of forgot about. It's like being in a relationship. You might be in a relationship or married for a long time, but you don't go out on dates on Fridays. You don't make time for each other. You're working, you're taking care of the kids, you're trying to build your retirement nest egg, but you don't go and do the things that kind of brought you together when you first started dating, and you need to do that. So yeah.
Right, the fundamentals, the
The
just
fundamental.
the things that they worked back then, but then you let the day to day take
Mhm.
over, and then you forgot things, and it's a little bit scary to even think about. Like there were things that we forgot that we used to do every day that have just fallen by the wayside just because life happened. And so
Mhm.
we've been mentioning some kind of like business ideas and strategy, some motivational things. Do you think is there something that is like unique to you, Eric, or is there something that's like you think you have more of a focus or a handle on than maybe some of your peers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think two things. One, I'm very, very strategic in about the moves or things that I do. So I'm very calculated. I think about uh, what I want to do, or what something that may solve a problem, and I find unique ways in working with, not only just for my own business, but working with other entrepreneurs, investors, co-founders, CEOs, to help them really strategically map out, um, you know, from where they are, where they want to go, and what we need to put in place, the building blocks to get to that next level. So instead of going from here to the end result, we just do small incremental steps, just like you walk from your house to your garage to your car. You have to take one step after the other, and just kind of putting those in place. And I'm very strategic about that. Show what's the best route, what's the most efficient route, what's the most least resistance to get from where you are to where you want to go.
And what is your big idea moving forward as far as the like you're great at being motivated, at thinking, at setting goals. Like you said, where you are, there's where you want to go, there's what you put in place to get there. What is on the horizon for you? What's the latest and greatest big fun project coming up?
Okay, for the big fun project for me, is actually I is actually getting into putting together, using the latest technologies that's available, but building strategic systems on top of that. Because you could have the best software or WYSIWYG, but if you don't have a system to actually make it work, it doesn't. And so I'm getting into systems that uses software to help companies acquire their ideal customer, client, and patient. So getting into software development. And that's been for about the
And
last year and a half now.
well, fantastic, and I can relate to that a lot. In there sometimes being like software that almost does what you want, but just gets you like 90% of the way there, and using a second piece of software to get it done, or maybe like a super powerful kind of software, but the important thing that you actually need is only like 10 or 15%. And so there's not just the tool, but there's also how to navigate the tool and how to use the tool, and like things like a customer relationship management system, like a CRM to track your customers. It can do all kinds of crazy things, but unless you have like a good strategy, a good process, you're trained to
Mm-hmm.
use it in the right way, then what is any of that matter. It's like if you're running and you have the best
Mm-hmm.
running shoes, but you're not in shape, or you don't have good form, or you don't train yourself properly to work yourself up as far as strength, then what good are the best running shoes if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
those other things in place, including the self-awareness, and including the kind of ability to adapt to the unexpected problems, obstacles, right? Like your feet might hurt, this road might be closed, might be too cold, too hot, too tired when you're running. So, and the same thing with business, as some of these stories that you mentioned, sometimes we get stuck. Sometimes we need to think our way out of things, or find new ways to motivate ourselves. And so for people who want to find out more about you, and who want to jump on the Eric Carter train and bandwagon, they say, I like what he has to say, I like his motivational advice, I like the way that he can take something really complex and say, here's what you need to do, easy wins, a marketing strategy. How do they take the next step with you? How do they contact you, reach out to you, find out what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just simple. They just go to ericcarter.com, and that's actually Carter is spelled Carder, not Carter. So they can go there and they can book some time with me. It's just this, simple web presence, and they can, if what I've talked about has resonated with them, or just interested in knowing more, doesn't cost them anything to have basically coffee with Eric, and we can talk. And if we find out that we may want to pursue something further, then we'll take it from there.
Fantastic. And that is
Mm-hmm.
EricCarder.com. And if anyone is
Yeah.
hesitating to go there and book the appointment, like, I think we can all relate, right? Like, it's like hesitating to go to the doctor, or hesitating to go to the accountant. It's scary to examine your own problems. It's scary to just, like, I don't know, like make some of this stuff more open and share it with someone else. So if someone is maybe a little bit afraid of going to ericcarter.com right now and booking that phone call with you, do you have any advice to someone like that? Like, have you been where they're at? Or if someone says, that sounds great, going to ericcarter.com and like kind of sharing some of my problems and getting some solutions, but I'm just a little bit hesitant. Do you have anything to say in response to that?
Yeah, it's just a friendly conversation. It's just like you meet someone in the grocery store, and you're just having some great dialogue back and forth. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to beat you over the head. It's just having a conversation with someone that you just met, and you just clicked. And you just feel like maybe this person might could point me in a direction, or they could assist me. And if nothing comes out of it, you just had a great conversation with hopefully a new friend, and that's it.
Fantastic. Well, ericcarter.com is the place for that great conversation, maybe some new ideas, maybe pushed in the right direction. And as we wrap up, wind down this conversation here, Eric, is there any lasting piece of advice you want to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Stop doing everything yourself. Ask for help. It's okay. Not everyone will agree with you. Not everyone will, root you on. But you can't do everything by yourself, and you should seek others to help you, whether it's myself or anyone. Don't go it alone. Solitude is not the best thing in life, and surely not in business.